So the goal of this course, we have three goals. The first one is to understand and apply object-oriented concepts. That's what we will be studying and discussing and applying throughout in the first half of the semester. Of course, at this stage, this might not make much sense, but of course, as we move forward, it will become clear. Second goal is to have hands-on programming experience in applying this object-oriented concept to solve problems. Because at the end of the day, programming is one of the tools to solve problems. And you need to apply these concepts to solve computing problems. Towards the second part of the course, we will start looking into graphical user interfaces. So not just character-based, black screen-based user interface, but more graphical, more elegant way of interacting with users. And of course, we will see how we can read and write to files and so on. Those are basically the three major outcomes of this course. And the most important one is this hands-on programming experience. This is a practical hands-on course. And it's a critical course because you will build on this in other courses. And in other, if you continue as a computer professional or computer scientist, you will need those skills throughout your career. So it is important to really build strong foundation. And as you saw last session, what you saw in 151 is a building block for this course.
Yeah.
If you have little gaps, it's fine. You will have the opportunity to catch up and strengthen and address those gaps, especially in the first week or two. Then we will, of course, enter into new concepts and new skills that you will need to learn. But what I want to say here, don't leave gaps. Build strong foundations. So as you move forward, you don't have problems. You will go smoothly, inshallah, in the remaining of the program. So in terms of evaluation, this is how the grading will work. You will have a lab assignment in the lab, 5 assignments. Top 4 will be considered, 1 will be ignored. Lab project will be divided in 2 parts. One towards the middle of the semester and the second phase towards the end of the semester. So this way you don't have everything rushed towards the end. So you have quality time to spend on your project. Quizzes in class, 5 quizzes, top 4 will be considered, 1 will be ignored. Midterm, you will have only midterm for the theory in the 7th week. And finally, the final exam will have the practical and the theory. The practical will be in the lab, in the last lab, and it will be open book. Everything is open for the practical. Theory, of course, is closed book. Now, for the assignments and for the quiz, no makeup, you have 4 out of 5. If you miss one, it will not be counted. So 4 out of 5 will be counted. So that's basically how it is. Assessment, we discussed it with other instructors. We try to make it as balanced and as fair as possible, not too much overload and not too piece of cake. Something in the middle. Okay?
What the lab assignments is like?
In the lab.
Assignment?
In the lab. 5 out of 4. In the whole semester, 5 assignments.
In the quizzes? Oh, the quizzes.
Yeah. Quizzes in the lecture. 10, 15 minutes quiz. Yeah?
Is the assignments on open book? Or?
Assignments, yes. Good question. I will emphasize it with them. Yes. In the lab, you have access to everything. The book, the slides, the examples, everything. You will have a problem to solve. And you solve it using the skills you learned. Because we want to emphasize that this is a practical course. In real world, if you are a Java programmer, not everything is closed and you cannot see everything. Everything is open. You have a problem to solve. Everything is open. But of course, in the theory, there are some concepts you need to be able to explain, discuss, give examples, and so on. Okay, that will be closed book, of course. But even the theory will not ask you some things to do with syntax, things to do with semicolon or little technical thing. It's more concepts. And as we move forward, I will give you some examples of what is expected. Yeah. Okay. But good question. Yes, the lab assignment open and the practical exam open. Of course, project open Everything is open. Open means you have to do things yourself. You don't copy from others or get others to do it for you or something. You really need to do things yourself. Okay, moving on.
No homeworks.
No homeworks. You basically will work on your project. Your project will be given to you as early as possible, and you will work on your project as you move forward. So take advantage of the lab. The lab is 3 hours. Okay, 3 hours. It's a lot. It's a big piece of time. Okay, so please take advantage of it. So that's the opportunity for you to practice and to ask questions and to really put effort in the lab. And in the lab, you practice and then you get assessed. Sorry, just a second. So a couple of skills. So every lab will focus on one skill at a time. And then after a couple of skills that you have learned and practiced, you will get an assignment that covers 3-4 skills. And you do assignment on that, on the lab itself. So you practice at home, of course, on your projects and on the examples I did. Yes, please. Yes. Yeah. Yes, please. Yes, please. Individually, yes. Very good question, yes. Individually. Project is a group work, yes. Three students per group, or maybe. This will be in your lab, in lab instructors. So the lab instructors will design the projects, will design the assignment. As theory instructors, we also supervise them and give them feedback. So we oversee the overall thing, how things are going. So we'll be in the lab, only 15 students. We might have 5 groups. So really take advantage of the lab. Yeah. So don't waste the lab time and then you have to go home and struggle and find somebody to help you, and take advantage of the lab. That's the main message I want to tell you. 3 hours is significant time. Make the most out of it and practice more at home. We decided this just to keep the load reasonable. We don't want to overburden you. You have other courses, of course. At the same time, it's reasonable. I think it is a reasonable load. At the same time, it is continuous assessment. You always need to keep it in mind and work progressively. Don't leave it to the last minute. So allocate some time, maybe, I don't know, a couple of hours per week. This is for 251. I will study the concepts, practice from the examples, take some problems from the textbook, try to solve them, and so on. Yeah? Repeat what we have done in the lab, extend them, many other activities that you can do. And I will provide some further resources as we move forward. So here are the topics that will be covered in this course. So the first one this week, we are repeating 151 in a very fast way using Java syntax. From next week, inshallah, we will be starting object-oriented programming. The concept, what it means, what do we mean by this object-oriented programming? There are some fundamental principles that we will need to learn and apply. Then we will see one of the principles of object-oriented programming is called composition. Of course, now it doesn't mean anything. We will see what it means as we move. Then we will see arrays, lists, and lambdas and streams. These are arrays, but much more sophisticated than arrays. That's what you saw in C++. These are processing a sequence of values, but in a more elegant way, more powerful way of doing it. So after this, you will have your midterm. Then we come back and do a little bit more, one more principle of object-oriented programming called polymorphism. You will understand what this means later. These are scary terms, but don't worry, you will understand them and practice them. But you have to know them. Remember what I told you last time? Every group of professionals, they have some terminology that you need to be familiar with, because that's what they use when they talk to each other. So, and this terminology, sometimes scary terms, just fancy terms, but the concepts behind them, you can understand it.
Too much letters.
Yeah, too many scary letters and so on. But don't worry, you will definitely understand this and practice it, and you will be comfortable with it. No problem.
There is an application that we can practice the language.
it's the same of game and stuff, so it will be helpful. I use that for C++.
It could be. But in here, the main tool, as I explained, is doing exercises yourself, taking problem and trying to solve it using the techniques and this concept that we cover in class. That's the best way of really practicing this.
Yeah,
Because at the end of the day,
practice program.
yeah, any. By the way, I will be providing later on some forum where if you find some useful tutorials or useful tools or some tips to help everybody learn more, you are welcome to share them, of course, beside what I provide. Okay, so you might have some other ideas, you are welcome to share them with some links where other students can benefit from. Okay, now in the second half, we start looking at graphical user interface, at managing data using files, and string exception handling and string manipulation. If some of this is not clear, of course it's normal, and hopefully it is exciting. We will learn about them as we move forward. But these are basically the topics we will be covering, the book chapter associated with each topic, and how many weeks we will spend in each topic. Yeah.
During the lecture time?
Yes, during lecture time, 1 hour, exactly. Okay, moving on. This is the textbook. It will be electronic textbook, 11th edition. I think the bookstore will give us some more details how to access it. So far, I haven't received anything how to get it. But for now, you have the slides, you have the examples. When the textbooks comes, you will need to read the chapters associated with each topic. Okay. So this is the most important slide in this set of slides, is how to succeed in this course. I already discussed some of these aspects, but let me just go through them again. Really do your best to read the chapters associated with each topic. This will really strengthen your understanding and give you a much deeper understanding. But أضعف الإيمان is the minimum you read the slides and you try to study the slides. Preferably before the class, yes.
Is the ebook same as the hard?
Same. Yeah, exactly the same, yes. I don't have any experience with ebooks, how they are delivered and managed in the context of QU. Maybe you have more experience from other courses, but I'm still waiting for some clear instructions from the QU bookstore. And if I get something, I will share with you. Or maybe they will communicate directly with you. I'm not clear. This is my first experience with ebooks. But I'm hoping we will get an easy way to access the book. Okay. All right. So then this is the most important thing, is that you exercise. Minimum, you have a problem. I will try my best in the examples I provide. In the comments, I can give some small description of what the program is trying to solve. So initially, run the program, let's say. See how it is constructed. And then take the problem and try to do it yourself. From scratch, just take a blank editor page and start doing it yourself. Design it, of course, first in paper and try to redo it. If you are stuck, try to see how it is solved. And then once you manage to solve that, if you have problem, of course, ask questions, come and see me, post question on Piazza, try to seek some help to really get you further. Then once you solve that problem, try to extend it, try to add some more features. Do the same for the lab. Hopefully, if you are going in a comfortable way, you should be able to do the lab exercise in the lab by the end of the 2.5 hour, 2 hour, 15 minutes. Hopefully, you will finish all the activities in the lab. That really gives you an indication you are doing very well. Otherwise, if you are struggling a little bit in the lab, it's fine. You try to do as much as you can and seek assistance from the lab instructor. When you go back home, you try to redo the lab exercises. Complete whatever you have missed, and so on. Extend them. In the book, there are many book, there are many exercises in the book. You can also go through them and try to do some of them. I try to see if I can share some of the solutions so you can see the solution and so on. So this is what I mean by practice. You take a problem and you try to solve it first by putting together a design. What's the approach? How you will solve it? Have to think about it. Write it on pen and paper, and then translate that design into a program. We will see this process together in class. Then you apply it to as many examples as you can. Then things will become very clear. Yeah? This is the most important component because this is a practical course. It needs hands-on experience. Yeah? Okay, don't miss any classes, any labs, because a lot of the explanations, you will not find them in textbook, you will not find them in the slides. Some discussion, some extra explanation that is specific in the class. Plus, you get somebody to explain to you rather than you go through the content yourself. Much harder. Okay, so please don't miss any classes, and particularly any labs, because that's the opportunity for you to practice with somebody there to assist you and to explain to you further when you are stuck. For the projects, you only have projects, you must do it yourself, and you have to really contribute to the project. That's another way to build your skills. Start early. In your project, start early. Don't leave it to the last minute. And more importantly, also seek assistance. When you are stuck, when things become, you don't understand something, come and see me, see the lab instructor, post a question on Piazza, seek some help. Don't say, okay, it will become clear later on. No, it might become even much harder later on because the things we will build, it's a kind of a chain. It's really connected. If you have some gap, then it becomes much harder to follow. Okay? Yes, please.
For the exam, we study from the PowerPoint?
Both. As I mentioned, PowerPoint, what we discuss in class, and the textbook. Yeah. Okay. I already explained this. Very critical to keep this in mind. Exactly like swimming, you cannot learn how to swim. The only way to learn how to swim is to swim. And the only way to learn how to program is to program. There is no other way. Believe me, I have been on this field for a very long time. So basically, you might listen to my discussion, you might see some videos, you might see a lot of other people's code. You might say, oh, this is easy, I can do this. Or you might see somebody swimming. Oh, they just move their hands and their legs. It's easy, I can do this. You will be surprised. You throw yourself into that swimming pool and you will be screaming for help. Exactly the same. Yeah? Of course, you need to study the concept. You see the slides or attend my discussion and so on. But at the end, after that, you must practice. Otherwise, you cannot be programmed. Yeah, so this is very critical. That's why this is reflected. Even somebody highlighted, maybe you highlighted 50% of the course grade on the lab. This is just to highlight that this is a really practical course. Initially, I had almost 70% on the lab, but the lab instructors will say, oh, this is too much. Okay, so we try to balance it. But really, this is a really practical course. Okay? All right, so moving on. In terms of tools, we will be mainly using Eclipse as an editor to write our programs and run them. When we design the solution of our program, because we are using object-oriented programming, we will be using something called UML class diagram. Okay, and there are some tools to create these diagrams. You can do it by hand, you can do it in Word, but there are some professional tools if you wish, and I will introduce them later on.
Oh, what's this? I don't understand. Is it another program?
Sorry?
Is it another program?
It's another program, yes. It's called Visual Paradigm.
Is it iOS friendly?
You don't need to use this, by the way. I will introduce some much simpler way. Because, by the way, just to give you an idea, I don't want to scare you. All we will see some diagrams like this. This is a class, and there's another class. It has some name and some attributes. And this class has some relationships between them. Maybe one-to-many relationship. Something like this. This is called a class diagram. I think you don't need such tool, but just in case some of you want to use a tool, no problem. You can draw it by hand, you can draw it on Word, it's not a problem. So don't worry about this, don't worry about it. I might even remove it. But I will introduce the tool in case some of you want to use it, especially in your project, you might want to use it. Okay, now for delivering all the course context, slides and examples will be posted here. I will explain this at the end. For now, just keep it in mind. For questions, technical questions related to the course, better not to send them by email, better to post them here. And the reason why, if you post them there, I already invited all of you to join this forum, is that everybody can see these questions, they can answer them, they can benefit from the answers. Let me show you how it is used in the past. I used it in all my classes. I use it. Let me just show you last semester. You see here we had 604 questions throughout the semester, and this is the average time of response. In 80 minutes, you get an answer. So something like this. You just go ahead, post a question, I answer. Sometimes some students might answer. Very few, but luckily sometimes. Let me see. Oh, come on, some of the answers. Nobody. Okay, no, there are few. Okay. Mainly the poor instructor answers. Anyway, this is supposed to be for everyone to answer. Okay, the good thing is I answer, you might have a follow-up question, I can answer and somebody else can answer also. So the other thing I want to show you, when you post a question, you can post it anonymously. You don't need to reveal who you are if you don't want to, okay? You can post anonymously. That's another good thing about this. So it's very simple. You just put a note, like a new post, and then you put here some summary, and you put a question here, you post it, and it shows up here, and I will answer it, and everybody will see the answer. Yeah. Somebody can follow up. It might not need to be. It doesn't need to be a question. It might be some resource, some nice video, or some nice tutorial, something you want to share with everyone. You can post it here if you wish. Rather than by email, this is a much better way of doing it. Now, for plagiarism and cheating, you really need to do everything yourself. This is your project. In this case, we don't have homework. The project, the work in the lab, all the work must be your own work. No copying from others. That's the idea here. You can take the examples I provide, you can modify them, you can change them, that is not a problem. But other people's code or giving to some other person to do for you, that's not acceptable. Also for the project, you really need, everybody need to contribute. So not some are working hard and some are sleeping, this is unfair. Everyone has to contribute to the project. Now for the emails, try not to send emails. Try as much as possible to use Piazza, especially for technical questions. Emails are only when there is something not really related to the content, something else. And try to put CMPS 251 in the title of the email, just for me to see it clearly and I can respond more quickly. If it is related to absence or related to grading or something, put the section, your section L52. So it's easy for me to go to banner and change, Blackboard and change whatever I need to change. Okay. Last thing, for this week, this is what you need to do. Hopefully, if we get a textbook, you go through these chapters. Install the software I asked you. I already sent an email. Please take a look at it. Because you have to have the environment up and running on your laptop so you can practice. Very critical. Register in Piazza so you can post your emails. Post your questions there. And basically that's it. This issue very enjoyable and very fruitful learning journey.
In Piazza, you have to register to the room after we sign up?
No. There's no room, nothing. You just register. Okay, so now I will switch. Before I switch to Java fundamentals, I want to show you how the content is posted. The course content is posted. So everything will be posted in here, in this GitHub. And let me introduce what this GitHub is, because you will see this in future courses, and you will also see it in your professional life. So first, it's important to understand what this GitHub is used for. You know, when you have some kind of collaborative project, some project that you work as a team to deliver. It could be an assignment, presentation, a report. It could be some group, some programming project. There is this problem of synchronizing your work. I'm sure you all experienced this. So typically what the students do to kind of integrate and synchronize their work, what are the ways what are the tools you use typically?
We distribute the work.
Yes. And then how you put it together?
We usually have meetings, like share through email, and then we just copy the code into each other.
Yeah, okay, that's good. So email is one of them, but is it very smooth experience, or is it tedious, frustrating? Yeah, emails really bad. Yeah. WhatsApp group for exchanging ideas, deciding meeting time, distributing the work. But for managing the product of the work, the outcome of the work, of course, WhatsApp is not. WhatsApp is for communication, yes?
WhatsApp is used for files also.
To exchange files. But still, it doesn't help you to put your work together. Hopefully, you are not putting every piece of work, you put it together, you put it in separate files or separate documents, you stamp it and give it to the instructor. Hopefully, you don't do that. At certain stage, you have to put it in a nice, coherent piece of work as if it is produced by one person. Yes, that's what you're supposed to do. Yeah? So one better way of doing it, you might use Dropbox, those of you familiar with Dropbox. But Dropbox, the problem sometimes when you create same document and multiple people change the document, if there is a conflict, Dropbox will create a new file, two versions of the file. Okay? It might say, this is Fatima's version and this is Sarah's version. And it doesn't solve the problem. You have two versions. So there are much, much better ways of doing this. One of them is OneDrive. And of course, there is also Google Docs. This allows you collaborative editing of documents. This is much more elegant. If you are not using this, then you are missing a lot. If you are still using emails to coordinate and integrate your work, then you are still doing it the old-fashioned way. Yeah? So let me just show you what I mean. Here is OneDrive. This is OneDrive. So for example, I have this project here that I collaborate with many people here in Qatar and US and some other people. So what we have a folder in this OneDrive. And then basically this folder, let's say I have a document here, work plan per team member. So when I open this document, okay, can you see here, this document, when I save, can you see the save button in this Word? It's not a normal save button. It is a save with this circle there. What this means is that when I save this file gets saved on some web location on OneDrive. And people that I share this document with, they can see my changes. And if they do need changes, I can see their changes. and we can work collaboratively at the same time without creating any conflict.
The same file.
The same file at the same time. Yeah, and you can do it from Word, or you can even do it from the web. I can open this on the web, and I can basically change this file on the web, and my changes will be visible to them. Okay, yeah. And if they are editing this, I can see their edits as they do it. So this way, when we finish the work, do we need to do any synchronization and putting things together and integrating our work? No, it's already synchronized and integrated. Yeah. So this is for editing documents. And by the way, I can share this one with, I just need an email of someone I want to share with. I put their email, I put some quick notes, and I send it, and they get a link, and they can edit the document together with me.
Oh.
Yeah, or I can, even if I don't know their email, I can create here anyone with edit link. Anyone with this link, I can copy this link, send it, put it on the web. Anyone in the world can access this document and change it. Yeah. So this is a more sophisticated way of doing collaborative editing of documents. Yes. Now, in programming, when we build software, usually you never build a piece of software by one person. In most cases, in 99% of cases, you work as a team, and you build some products as a team. So definitely, when you work as a team, you need to collaborate to produce that software. Luckily, in software, we don't need a sophisticated editor like Word. In software, you just need a text. In software, when we build a program, when we write our program, we don't need to have bold and italic and colors. We don't need all of this. We just need simple text editor. We just write our text, and our program is made up of many text files. Many text files. And then basically, what happens is we need some shared location where we can post our files, and other team members can get the files, can change them, and then post them again. So that's where there is a very famous and very popular tool called GitHub. So GitHub is kind of similar to OneDrive, but more for building software, for building programs. So in GitHub, what you can do, you can create projects. You can create a project, and a project can have, of course, one or many files, and a project can have one or many collaborators. Collaborator. Oh, okay, thank you. Okay, so you can have one or many collaborators, yes, and then I think it can survive. Okay, one or many collaborators, and then basically what you do is these collaborators, they produce files, and then they push them to GitHub. And other collaborators, they can download them, change them, and push them again. So this GitHub is a central repository where where collaborators can collaboratively produce a piece of software. Yes? Is it a good idea?
Yeah, it's very good.
It's an excellent idea. Do you think how much this GitHub will worth? How much you would pay for it?
Free.
For us, it's free. But if you want to own it, you are the owner of GitHub.
How much is it?
Okay, let's find out. Microsoft.
Maybe $3 million.
Let's see.
Free is not sure. Because the subscription. Oh my God.
How much? $7.5 billion. This GitHub that we will use for free. Okay, so you can just show you how powerful this idea is, and somebody is ready to pay this much for it.
Is it for Microsoft?
Now it's owned by Microsoft, but it's still free. It's free if you want to keep your files public, anybody can see them. It's free. If you want to keep it within a private group, you have to pay. But luckily, us as instructors, you as students, you have a free access. I think 5 repositories. Instructors have unlimited free repositories.
By our
Private.
email.
Sorry?
The university via
No. Like, because of the importance, they want to attract students and instructors to be aware of it. When they go to the professional life, they already know how to use it, and they're already familiar with it. So students get a free. It is free for everyone if you want to keep your repository private. Yes, and it's widely used. Like, let me show you just an example. There is any open source library, you will find it on GitHub. So there's something called the React.js that you will learn in 2 years' time in web development. This library is being developed in GitHub. Just let me show you. This is a GitHub repository or project of this React. You see how many people working on this project? 1,307 people working on this project. Okay, producing this project together. And these 1,000 people are around the world. Yeah. Okay, now if I click here, I can see what everyone is doing. And you see this library, by the way, is very popular. 2,300,000 people are using it. And this guy, this is what they did. This is how many times they pushed new content. This is how many times they deleted something. And you can see everybody. I can drill down and see what everyone is doing. Okay, so it's a really very powerful collaboration tool. Anyway, I think it's enough marketing for this. Let me show you how we will use it in our course. The way I will use it in our course is this. Okay, that's fine. But for me, here it is. I'll be posting all the lectures and examples here. If you want to use it the naive way, you can just come here and download this individually. No problem. You can download them individually, or if you wish, you can download them in one zip file, the whole thing in one zip file. But this is not the way you should do it. The best way to use GitHub is, as a beginner, you install something called GitHub Desktop.
application.
Yes, it's called GitHub Desktop. Yep, you install this one. It's very popular. You can see how many hits refer to this. There's a Mac version, Windows version. You download it. Once you download it, you get something like this. A little program, very, very super simple. All you do, once you download it, instead of doing download zip, what you will do? Open in desktop. Okay. Now, let me try to do it with another project so I can show you the difference. Alright, just a second. React.js GitHub. Let me go back to that project. So if I want, I can download, of course, this. If I download, I will get that copy and that's it. Whenever they change, I have to come back and download again. It's not a good idea. The best idea, if I want to follow this project, every time they change, I get the latest version. Instead of doing download, I will say open in desktop. Now, when I say open in desktop, this little program I downloaded, it will ask me, where do you want to put this project? Where do you want to put it in your local system, in your local computer? You choose a folder where you want to put it, and then you click clone. When you click clone, what will happen? It will download everything. Yeah? But not only this, it will give you this little button here, fetch origin. It's a little bit technical, don't worry about it. You click there. If there is any change, you will always get the latest version. Yeah? So the way it works, for me, whenever I change something, either slides or examples, I push them to GitHub. And for you, before you do revision, you just basically synchronize. By the way, this cloning, how many times you do this clone or open in desktop? Once. That's it, once. And then updating every time before you start revising or studying, click that button. Make sure you click the sync so you get the latest version. Yes? So it's much easier way, easier for you, easier for me. Okay? And the way I do this, let me just show you. So for example, let me just remove these guys. Let's say I have a new slides. I might, usually what I do, I will provide you slides maximum on the weekend or the week after, if not before, maybe Thursday or, okay? Now during the week when we do the class, I might find some gap, some correction, something I need to provide more examples or clarify. So I might do some changes. So when I do the change, let me show you how I deliver this to you. The way I deliver this to you, I will save as, I will save it usually as PDF. So I'll go here, lectures, and I'll save it. Okay, save it there. Okay, it will convert this to PDF. Once I am done, when I go to this little program here, it detects that there is a change here. One of the files in my folder has changed. And then all I do, I put some comments here. Updated syllabus slides. I'll comment, and then I push. You can see here, push. I push it to GitHub. And you, using your little tool, you will do sync to get it.
Okay.
You see the idea? So, and this is how developers work. So developers, when they build a program, you create a project and you add yourself as contributors to the project. One of you will create the project and then invite others as contributors. And then all of you will have shared location on GitHub. Yeah? And then you start creating files, updating files, and pushing them to GitHub, and other team members can sync and get the latest version. You see? And this is used by millions of developers around the world. So powerful tool. I showed you how much it's worth, just to show you the importance of this tool.
Can anyone become a collaborator?
Sorry?
So like if, for example, in the future, if we decide as programmers to
To
create
you,
a project
yes.
that we want to sell.
Yes. Yeah.
So can anyone just come in and become collaborator?
No, they can ask to be collaborator, you approve it, or you can add them. But in my program, in my repository, by the way, project in GitHub is called a repository. It's like a shared location. In here, I am the only collaborator, okay? You have a read access only. You cannot push anything to this repository, yeah? So I showed you those React projects. I showed you the React project. How many collaborators? 1,307. Now, the way it works, somebody create this project. This project is owned by Facebook. You can see here. Can you see here? This project is owned by Facebook. Facebook created this project. And then they opened it to the rest of the world. Anybody who wants to contribute to this project and make it better, come along and become a contributor. So you can apply, and if you can show that you can add some value, you get accepted. And you can change things. Yeah? So that's basically the idea. And the rest of the world, beyond this 1,300 people, are readers only. You cannot push, you cannot change.
And they cannot get the files.
You can get the files, of course.
They can get the files.
Yes, it's open source. If you want to make it closed source, you can. But as soon as you, let me show you. Let me show you. Thank you very much. For private, yes. So here, if I go here, setting, can somebody see settings? Yes, see settings. You see this repository is now, sorry? Yeah, we will make it, hopefully. Where it is. Can you see something public, private? Yes, can you see here, make this repository private, upgrade. As soon as you want to make it private, you have to pay. Yeah?
Okay.
You have to pay per month, some $10 per month or something like this.
Okay, what about the files that we want to push? Can we, like, instead of making it private,
Yeah.
can we, for example, put some password on the
No,
file?
no. Either private or public. There is no password on file or anything. It's basically you create a repository, you create some space, workspace, And only the members that you accept in your workspace will be able to access it. Other people, they will not see this project at all. It's private. Nobody can see it. But it's a controversial here. For private, you have to pay. For public, normally you don't pay. Yeah. So basically,
It's
for
like virtual offices.
kind of not virtual. Let's be more precise. It's basically a folder on the web. Folder on the web shared by many people, and many people can read and write to that folder. They can push files, they can add files, they can delete, modify files, and they can do it collaboratively. The power of this, we can work on the same file. We can push the file and GitHub will merge our changes. Very powerful. Yeah. And this GitHub is the one that is heavily used by developers around the world, millions of people. That's why it's worth that much. Yes? Okay. So this is hopefully just to introduce the idea. You get taste of it in this course. In future, all my courses, I use this. And basically, for in this course, we don't want to burden you with too many things. You can use it if you wish in your project. That's not a problem, but it's not a requirement. But in more course, for example, in my course, web development, every student gets a private repository. All the homeworks they use, they push their homework to the private repository. The project also in GitHub. Okay, so when you graduate and start working, you will also more likely than not use GitHub or something similar.